For thousands of years, the Garden of Eden has been seen as a beautiful myth, a symbolic paradise lost to time. But what if it wasn't a myth at all? What if the Bible gives us a literal map to a real place? Genesis chapter 2 describes Eden not as an abstract idea, but as a specific location defined by real geography. It names for rivers connected to this garden, offering physical reference points that anchor the story in our world. 3 of those rivers are well known. One, however, has remained a mystery. This is the story of the search for that missing river, and how it could finally reveal the true location of the Garden of Eden. The key to this entire puzzle lies with the missing 4th river, the Pishon. The Bible offers a brief but critical description. Genesis says the Pishon winds through the entire land of Havilah. This single sentence is our most important clue. If we can identify the ancient land of Havilah, we can narrow down the search for the Pishon River. And another passage in Genesis gives us the direction we need. It describes Havilah as being located opposite Egypt, in the direction of Assyria. Now, let's pull out a map. If you stand in Egypt and look east, toward ancient Assyria, what landmass do you see? Only one region fits that description: the Arabian Peninsula. This makes Arabia the leading candidate for the biblical land of Havilah. But this idea immediately runs into a huge problem. Look at Arabia today. It's a vast desert. There are no major rivers flowing across it. It's one of the driest places on Earth. So, how could a great river, one of the 4 that watered paradise, have ever existed there? The fact that there's no river today doesn't mean there never was one. The real question is, did Arabia ever have a climate capable of supporting a massive river system? Before we answer that, we need to look at the 2 main theories for where Eden itself was located. The first theory places Eden far to the north, in the mountains of what is now eastern Turkey and Armenia. It's true that 2 of Eden's famous rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates, do start in this region. But this northern location has some major issues. It's a high, cold, and rugged landscape, which doesn't really sound like the lush, temperate garden described in the Bible. More importantly, the rivers in this area don't flow together, they flow apart. Genesis describes something different. It speaks of a single river associated with Eden that then becomes for headwaters. This implies the rivers must connect, not diverge. This brings us to the second, more compelling theory, a southern location. In southern Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, the geography tells a completely different story. Here, the Tigris and Euphrates rivers flow toward each other. Near the town of Al-Qurna, they actually merge, becoming a single, massive waterway that flows down to the Persian Gulf. This convergence perfectly matches the biblical description of the rivers coming together. The Bible also mentions a 3rd river, the Gihon, which is associated with the land of Cush. While many people think of Cush as being in Africa, ancient texts also refer to a land of Cush located east of Mesopotamia, in what is now Iran. A major river, the Karun River, flows out of that very region and joins the Tigris and Euphrates right near the Iraq-Iran border. This makes the Karun a strong candidate for the biblical Gihon. Now, how we read the text is crucial. Many people imagine a single river flowing out of Eden and then splitting into 4 smaller streams. But Hebrew scholars suggest a different interpretation. the text can actually be read as describing four separate rivers that all flow into and merge in one central region. This interpretation is a game changer. It means we don't need to find a single source that splits apart. Instead, we should be looking for a region where four major rivers once converged. So, let's take stock. We have the Tigris and the Euphrates meeting in southern Iraq. We have a strong candidate for the Gihon, the Karun River, joining them from the east. The only piece of the puzzle still missing is the Pishon, the river of Havilah. If Havilah is Arabia, as the evidence suggests, then the Pishon must have once flowed from the Arabian Peninsula eastward toward this great confluence in Mesopotamia. Is there any evidence for such a river? Let's go exploring in Arabia. Running down the western side of the peninsula are the Hijaz Mountains. This mountain range acts as a massive watershed. Crucially, these mountains are tilted, sloping down toward the east toward Mesopotamia. Any rainfall in these mountains would naturally drain eastward. As you move from the mountains down into the foothills, you start to see them, ancient, dry channels carved into the rock, unmistakable evidence of flowing water. These smaller channels all merge into one enormous drainage system known today as Wadi Rumah. Wadi Rumah is not just some small, seasonal stream bed. Satellite imagery reveals it's a vast, ancient river system that stretches for hundreds of miles right across the Arabian Peninsula. In fact, geological studies have confirmed this was once a continuously flowing river, and its ancient channel is as wide, and in some places wider, than the modern Euphrates. It was a fossil river, hiding in plain sight. But the description of Havilah in Genesis gives us more than just geography. It mentions valuable resources, high-quality gold, aromatic resins, and precious stones. And guess what? Arabia is historically famous for all three. Major ancient gold mines, like the Mod ad-Dahab, which literally means cradle of gold, are located right near the watershed that once fed this massive river. The famous ancient incense trade routes, carrying frankincense and myrrh, ran directly through this same area. As we follow the path of this dry riverbed eastward, the evidence keeps mounting. Near modern-day Kuwait, we find vast plains of gravel. When geologists analyzed these stones, they discovered they didn't come from the local area. They were made of rock types that perfectly matched the geology of the Hijaz Mountains, hundreds of miles away to the west. The only way those rocks could have gotten there is if they were carried by a powerful, sustained river flow over an incredible distance. And where does this ancient river system finally end? Its path leads directly to the same region in southern Iraq, where the Tigris, the Euphrates, and the Karun River all converge. The geography fits the biblical requirements with stunning precision. For rivers, all once active, all coming together in a single, low-lying, warm, and well-watered land. Today, that region is home to the vast marshes of southern Iraq. Even now, it's an incredibly fertile area, teeming with life. Thousands of years ago, before the climate changed and the rains stopped falling in Arabia, it would have been an even more lush and productive paradise. It's the perfect natural candidate for the place Genesis describes as the Garden of Eden. The biblical story is one of paradise lost, but it's also a story that ends with the promise of restoration. The search for Eden's rivers isn't just an academic puzzle. It's an attempt to connect our most foundational stories to the real world, to see the physical stage on which this epic drama began. When we look at all the evidence, the geographical descriptions, the convergence of the rivers, the fossil river of Arabia, and the resources of the land, the southern Mesopotamian proposal stands out as the most coherent and compelling explanation for where the Garden of Eden once stood. It suggests that paradise wasn't just a dream, it was a real place, whose ghost still whispers to us from the dust of the desert and the waters of its ancient rivers. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey. If you found this as fascinating as I do, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the mysteries of the ancient world.